Hi, and welcome to episode 56 of the Austin Downbeat. I hope everyone's doing good. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing if you can and spreading the word. It's so fun to see this grow. Um, I have to say, I was at an event this last weekend over Memorial Day for Sims, did their very first festival at, at Far Out Lounge. And it was so beautiful. And it was seriously, whether you know musicians or you don't, what my favorite part was just to kind of sit there and get some hugs and give some hugs, but also just witness this music community and how much they love each other, the musicians. It was just an afternoon of hugging and love. Anyway, I hope you feel it when you watch, and I hope you get to experience that when you go to a show or see folks play around town. All right, let's get to the rundown. This covers May 30th through June 5th. We are at the very beginning of summer, so good luck to all you parents out there of kids. Hope you're finding some activities. I just did my calendar today. So some things to add to your summer calendar for sure. So May 30th, you have Rosie Flores at the Continental Club Gallery. David Shabani is at Superstition. Graham Wilkinson is at Continental Club downstairs. On the 31st, May 31st, you have Ali Holder at Meridian. On June 1st, you have Super Creeps. My pal Gilbert plays drums in that band. They are at the Pershing. It's an awesome venue. Boer is at Sea Boys. On the 2nd, I'll tell you what, I can't list it all because there's too many, but something's going on in downtown McKinney Square. There are a ton of people playing, and I'll just name a couple. Slade Cleaves is playing, and Katrina Kane, and a list of folks are playing at McKinney Square. Tons of people. Madame Radar is at Meridian, and Ray Prim, my pal, is at Saxon Pub. That's all on June 2nd. On the 3rd, you have Pat Byrne with a full band at Green Hall. So much fun to see. Also, so much fun to see and a great venue. Beetroot Revival is at not Peggy's Porch, but Peggy's on the Ledge. If you haven't seen a show there, it's absolutely gorgeous. And so Beetroot will be playing. On the 4th of June, you have Ruby Dice at Pershing. And on the 5th, to wrap it up with our residencies, you have Brian Wolf at the Driscoll, as he is every Monday night. You have Bob Schneider at the Saxon Pub, and then you have Monday Night Supper Club at El Mercado South. That does it for the rundown. I go to bands in town to find most of these, as well as just keep a diary as I hear shows come up. But Bands in Town is a great resource. Okay, let me get to my guest today. So my friend Mike Gormley brought me this guest. His name is Doug Legacy. He is a veteran in the music industry, has been doing this basically his whole life. He has an incredible story. And so as much as I want you to know about his music, which I will tell you about, I also just want you to kind of sit back and relax and listen to story time because I will just tell you, like, how does Korn, Oingo Boingo, the Gong Show, and the Muppets connect? Well, Doug Legacy. His experience is just like right place at the right time. The man has played with Paul McCartney, got a midnight phone call asking him to play. The stories are just endless. He's so talented. He is a piano tuner and fixer to the stars out in LA. He's from Texas. But his latest endeavor, and it's so good, is called Dr. Soundgood. You can find him on Spotify and streaming platforms. You can also go to drsoundgood.net to check him out. But it's Zydeco, swamp funk, rock and roll. And he's such a talented singer, such a talented musician, and a really great storyteller. And I just absolutely loved having a chance to sit down and record some of these stories. It's, it's definitely not how it goes for everyone when they, they get in a van and drive from Houston to LA. And in that same week, they are literally playing with Fleetwood Mac. It's crazy balls. Anyway, this is a really long intro, so I'm going to be quiet now and just let you dive into all things Doug Legacy. He is an absolute sweetheart. So thanks to Doug for stopping by. And without further ado, here is Doug Legacy of Dr. Soundgood. All right. Doug Legacy, welcome to the show.
Got it. Hey, thanks. There was a big message there I had to read all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Go.
The never-ending notifications. It's so nice to meet you and have you on. I should say we have a mutual friend in Mike Gormley, and I'm curious how you know that, sweetheart.
Well, I met Mike when I was working for Oingo Boingo.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then he got me. Got me a record deal, and
as he does.
I've known him for a long time. He's a really great guy and one of the nicest people I've ever met. But and he's a go-getter too, and he gets things done.
Yeah. So. Yeah, he's an absolute sweetheart. I've known him for a few years now, and yeah, he's one of my favorite people out there in LA. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's kind of take it back. I've done some research on you, and I feel like you've done so many things. It's kind of blowing my mind. And I want to, I want people to know some of the highlights of your career. And by no means is that, stopping anytime soon. I feel like you're still so full steam ahead. Is that true with Dr. Soundgood? Yeah.
This is the best band I've ever had, and then, I've been playing since I was 5, so I've almost got the hang of it now. It's been a long road, but and I've got a bunch of really great instruments in my studio here, and being in LA, it's even when my guys are busy, which they frequently are. I've got a stable of other guys that are just amazing too.
Yeah.
And things fall in my lap here. Sometimes I wish I could go back to Texas. I'm from Houston, and I miss Galveston especially. I used to go visit my grandmother in Galveston all the time, and I lived in New Orleans for a little while when I was a kid, and I had the fantasy of buying some property in New Orleans and having them bed and breakfast, and I could support my little studio there or whatever, and just a place to go and and hang out to when I want to be there, which is frequently.
Yeah.
But yeah, things are going great. I'm singing better than ever. I'm playing better than ever. My body's starting to wear out a little bit, but I'm okay. I still do my own yard work. I live on a hill, so come on.
Yeah. Do you think, so you were born in Houston, you've spent time in, like you said, New Orleans and Austin, which is where we are. Did you go to school here?
I did. I was majoring in music and minoring in oceanography.
Oh, wow.
So, the first year you don't get to do anything fun in oceanography, unfortunately, but it was really interesting. I learned a lot about the ocean, which I love the ocean. And unfortunately at one point I busted an eardrum. That's a long story, but I'm all better, but I still can't go underwater very deep without a problem.
Yeah,
that's unfortunate because I would love to be scuba diving. I can scuba dive, but snorkeling. I can snorkel, but I can't scuba.
Right. Do you think you'll ever come back this way, or is LA kind of it for you now?
Well, I want to come play in Texas, and I want to come. I doubt if I'll ever move back to Texas. If I did, it would probably be Galveston or maybe Austin, but Austin's probably not the same it was in 1972. I'm sure.
I'm hearing it's not.
It was a dirt road out to Hippie Hollow back then when we used to go jump in the lake naked.
I live near Hippie Hollow.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah. I've been there. I haven't been there. For those watching, that's where you nude sunbathe, but yeah.
I definitely jump in the water naked frequently there when I was going to school.
Love it.
But we get stuck in the mud going out there. It was a dirt road.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy because yeah, I'm out here on the Lake Travis side of town and out in like Bee Cave and Spicewood area, if that even sounds familiar to you.
Sure.
Um,
No
and
worries.
and I'll hear people say like this was a one lane road, and people were like, if you were ever going out here, they would be like, why are you going out there?
Yeah, right.
And now it is, I mean, to me, see, I'm from LA, so I came out here and I was just like, what traffic? What are you talking about? Like this is I
Right,
cut my teeth on the 405. Like this is
right.
nothing. But I will say, I'm about to have 10 years here in Austin. And even in the 10 years that I've been here, it's starting to get on me a little bit. Like I'm like, oh my
Mm.
gosh, there's a few roads and a few bridges needed, you know? So
Well, you know, they don't they have toll roads, and aren't they collecting a ton of money from you guys already? Come on.
they have a few, but they need to start building some bridges because there's
I
these
hear you.
darn lakes and rivers that, like, my goodness, if you could just cut through or go over it, it'd be so much easier and so much faster. This is my note.
Are they planning on doing anything like that, or is it just,
I don't
you know,
think,
you're
I don't know. I'm not hearing it. I hear a lot of people feel the same that I do, but I don't really see, I don't really see anything happening. So,
you want to overpass? Is that what you're thinking, or
well, no, I'm just saying like there are there are just spots where like theoretically if you look on a map you'd be like, oh, I could get to a main road if there were just a little cut through here, or like a bridge to go over it instead of having to drive all the way around a lake, you know?
right?
Yeah.
Then of course they got to buy somebody's property and, you know, uproot somebody's front yard. And you know,
Yeah.
when I was a kid, me and my buddy used to go down to the Buffalo Bayou and dig up trees and sell them to people for $5 a piece, planted in their yards. And there was this one street that we probably planted 100 trees on, you know, and it was great. A lot of them grew and they were real big. And then all of a sudden, well, you know, years after I came out here, they, uh, it was Highway 6 is what it was. It was, what was it called before that? God, I can't remember. But anyway, I went by there and oh, they cut down all my trees, man. Oh no.
You're like, I worked so hard for that.
It was a few still, you know, but they cut off like, you know, half these people's front yard to widen the street.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, back to you. So take me through chronologically because so
Oh,
I know you've so much, so many stories, I bet. Mike was like, ask him about Oingo Boingo, ask him about Danny Elfman, ask him about Rod Stewart. And I'm like, and then I see that you've worked with the Muppets,
yeah.
which,
Well, that's all interlinked somehow, you know. I mean, the guy that did the Muppet Show was one of the original keyboard players from Oingo Boingo,
oh, really?
and but I kind of that's how I got it sort of involved. But he also knew the guy that was a drummer, Michael Jokum. He used to be with Korn, and he was my drummer for a while. He's a really great drummer, and he was in that, and he was good friends with Richard at the same time. But it was really fortunate that I also was, you know, involved with Oingo Boingo, and so it was like an easy connection. And then, but they were looking for a Zydeco band, and we just happened to be a Zydeco band at the time,
Yeah.
and so it was a whole lot of fun. You know, we recorded a lot at Capitol Records, and just being at Capitol Records, I got to, you know, do a bunch of cool stuff, like just being in the right place at the right time. I got to, you know, play with Paul McCartney once, and
What?
you know, yeah, that was pretty cool. It was they called me and said, listen, you're gonna get this phone call from like a really high profile, you know, client of Capitol, but we can't tell you who it is. So for months, I'm like, well, who's gonna call, you know? And in the middle of the night too, it was like, you know, 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock or something. You know, this is somebody, you know, I represent so Paul McCartney. Hey, we'd like you to play accordion and sing background vocals on this special thing we're doing for his wife. You know, it was a PETA thing that was like zillion people broadcast thing
Yeah.
from our studios. And the band was the coolest. I mean, it was like David Gilmour on guitar,
Yeah.
and Ian Pace on drums, and the guy that plays guitar for Van Morrison, and you know the keyboard player from the Everly Brothers, and you know a bunch of cool people. And then of course the audience was amazing, you know. And I ran into Jeff Lynne, who I hadn't seen in years, because I mean, I was a keyboard tech for them when I first got out to LA, and I also got to be the robot, walk stage. That was fun, and but Jeff was really cool, and he'd come, oh, Doggy, I'll say you've got a real gig now, mate. I was, oh, thanks, Jeff. He actually came up and said hi. But anyway, it's been a lot of fun, and that kind of stuff just goes on all the time.
I mean, yeah, it sounds like you're in the right place at the right time, like for a long time now.
Yeah, and most of the time that and $5 will buy me a cup of coffee, but it's a
Yeah.
lot of fun, and I get to hang out with a lot of cool people, and just like I had just from Van Dyke Parks is one of my oldest friends in town, and we still work together a lot at my home studio here, and through him I've met zillion people. I'll go tune Harry Nilsson's piano, or go do this, blah blah blah, and what was I going to say about Van Dyke? Anyway, it's just so much fun.
Yeah. Tell me about the Gong Show, because I have memories as a little kid and that being on, and I was fascinated by that show.
Well, at the time we were living in our van, we had gotten to LA to get some steel drums. We had a band in Houston that was doing pretty well, actually. We were starting to play at Liberty Hall and open up for bands, and stuff, and we were getting a following and all this stuff, and we were really we had our type of music at the time we had invented was progressive palm tree, and we had steel drums and all that stuff.
I love it.
So, but they were going at it, and I had gotten the steel drums in Jamaica because my dad had taken us to Jamaica a few times when I was younger, and I heard steel drums, and I figured that's where they were from. I didn't do my research and realized that the good ones are from Trinidad, really. But they make okay ones in Jamaica, and now they're a whole lot better. But back then they sounded more like cowbells instead of like chimes, because the tune. Well, it's all about the tuning. If it's a complicated tuning, it'll sound more like chimes. But if it's just like a couple notes in each single note, but the really good pans, you can tap around each note and hear the octaves and the thirds, and it's amazing. How do they do that? And it's like they stretch the metal in and out of the corners with glancing blows of the hammer, and it's just, watching them do it is just amazing. I mean, I can do it, but I'm not great at it because I really don't. I can't afford to mess my own pans up, really,
Right.
But in a desperation situation, I have had to tune it, and I've watched the guys enough that I can kind of get away with it if I'm just really super careful and use the force and the whole bit, It is really tricky, and you'll tune one note over here and the one over there is out of tune. It's like, because it's a 55-gallon oil drum, God's sake. And the more you tune it, the more stable they get. But it takes years before they really get stable, But the new ones are much better than the old ones as started stabilizing, because they've got a much more sophisticated way of making them now. But it was all just hammers and heating them up and dropping a bowling ball on it, when they first started doing it.
Wow.
But yeah, it was a trip. But anyway, we're living in our van, and we're stopping at street corners and going down to Venice and playing steel drums on the corner just to get by. And we had a couple of girls with us that would dance around in bikinis. That helped a lot, shake things or whatever, But I said, take all the beads out of her shakers, for God's sake. It's a visual. You're throwing us off. It was funny. But anyway, so we did the Gong Show, won the Gong Show. And at the same time, I started tuning the pianos for SIR. I went down, and at the time I was making tuning for $20 a piano or something. And they sent the next day they sent me out to go tune Fleetwood Mac at the Forum. So, and my buddy's out in the van playing steel drums in the parking lot, and I'm in there jamming on the piano with Mick Fleetwood. After I got this thing tuned up, I started playing a little bit, and Nick comes up and started playing. He's like, hey, I'm like, this is like awesome. This is my first, month in LA, and I'm jamming with Mick Fleetwood and hanging out with Stevie Nicks for a little while and all this stuff. It was before the security guys tossed me out, and then later I worked for Stevie for a couple of tours. That was many years later, but then that's the first day, and my buddy's out there in the parking lot playing his steel drums, and these kids on Angel Dust come up, and they're just digging it, man. And, oh, this is awesome, And it turns out they had just gotten thrown out of their house, and for not paying the rent, which was right around the corner. And so we went over there, and with our gong check and our gong show winning check, we had won 3 tens, right? It was like $538.22 or something. It was like a really weird number, and also a box of pantyhose and some a little purple suitcase and a bunch of coupons for chicken, which came in really handy, and just a bunch of weird stuff. And a
It's
trophy.
the 70s, man.
we took the trophy apart when we all went different ways, and each of us took a piece of the trophy with us. So
Wow.
yeah, I got the pedestal. Hey, so it's got the name on it. Hey,
Nice.
But anyway, and then when my partner died, I got his part back. Well, so anyways, we went over there with our Gong Show check in hand and gave it to the lady and moved in there and lived there. And it was Hotel California for like years. Bands from Texas would come and stay with us. It was a huge house, and the rent was nothing, but the place was falling apart, but we didn't care. And it was right under this big flight path. So these planes would be going by, so it was really loud all the time. So people didn't care if we were playing music, because it was noisy anyway. The racetrack's around the corner, and the forum's right around the corner. And so I ended up being the house piano tuner at the Forum for years, and through that I went on the road with a bunch of rock bands and stuff.
Let's talk about who you went on the road with.
Guys,
start listing them.
The first I was sitting at Rod Stewart's rehearsals, and then they asked me to go on the road with them, and I ended up doing a couple tours with them, and Rod found out that I played steel drums, so he wanted to play steel drums too. So I played steel drums, which was a whole lot more fun than not playing steel drums. And I think after that I did ELO.
Oh, cool.
And then after that, God, everything's kind of it's a blurry, out of order thing. At some point, I did a stint with Barry Manilow.
Oh, I used to love him.
It wasn't my style of music. And the crowds were not the kind of crowds I was used to dealing with, like Stewart or ELO or Jackson Brown, even, or I worked for Stevie Nicks and Bruce Hornsby and.
How was Bruce Hornsby? I always really.
Sweetheart. Really nice guy. Yeah, a really good guy. And then I worked for the Tubes and Todd Rundgren, and then Todd asked me to be a singer for him. And in the next tour he had, which was my kind of breaking out finally, getting I never meant to be a roadie, because I came out with my band, but we would play all these showcases around town. It was brutal, nobody, you rehearse for months and play these gigs and nobody comes, and it was getting to play. Some of the guys that were in the band, were amazing, people, I can't remember, like Ian, somebody that was famous drummer, but he was with us in the very beginning, and the guy from the Cars was with us for a while. We had really cool bands, but it was a struggle, and if I had a decent bass player, of course, and we weren't making money paying gigs, somebody would steal them, of course, and it was hard to keep things together. Me and one of my partners stayed together for many years, and he was also a great carpenter and built a lot of recording studios around town and helped me build my recording studio. And then he unfortunately kicked the bucket. That was annoying. We were right in the middle of making an album for him, which I'm going to get back onto any day now.
Yeah, that stinks.
Okay, who else have I toured with? God, there was a bunch. Boz Scaggs. Of course, Oingo Boingo, and then and then later, after I toured with Todd as a singer for a cappella, I came back to town, and Oingo Boingo was having auditions for background singers, and I had worked for him as a tech before, and I went and auditioned and got the gig. So then I was playing in the band, and unfortunately the band broke up not too long after that. But when they did, I grabbed the band and made a record of my own with the Oingo Boingo band, and that's one of the things that Mike helped me out with. It was called Doug and the Mystics. And we were starting to line up all these cool gigs and, figuring out how to release this thing. And it ended up getting out on a Coliseum label in Germany for a while, or Amsterdam or someplace, but it never got released here. Mainly because Danny decided, oh, let's put the band back together real quick and do one more big, huge Universal Studios show. And so I had to cancel all the shows that I had lined up, and we went and did that show, and then we spent 6 months fixing that record. Or they did, and by that time my Zydeco band was doing a bunch of other stuff. Maybe we were doing the Muppets, or maybe it might have been before that. It was probably way before that. It was we did the late Mr. Pete show, and that was this thing on Channel 5. It was a Dick Clark production, and we were Golden Boy. We have a picture of like the band on this incredible set, which is like a kind of a adult Pee Wee Herman show, very weird, and their house band was a Zydeco band, so yeah, genius. But we were doing great. It was we were in competition with Dennis Miller, and we were kicking. Everybody was digging us, not Dennis Miller. But then all of a sudden, Mr. Pete gets AIDS, and Dick Clark pulled the plug on the show faster than you can. It was like it was. I don't want nothing to do with AIDS. And like 2 days before, or there was a week before, we had our picture with Dick Clark. I've got one of my favorite pictures, but it was brutal.
Oh, brutal.
Yeah.
But
I think
you keep going.
Sure. I mean, there was plenty to do. I mean, at that point, I was in the middle of, I had a Japanese record deal, and I just made this record at Jackson Brown's studio with Ry Cooder, and John, Keltner was produced the record. It was his first record that he had ever produced. Actually, I was getting him to produce 2 songs, and he ended up producing the whole record. But we got David Lindley on it, which, God, I'm so heartbroken that he's gone now. And he played. He was such a joy. He brought in tons of instruments, and just played on all kinds of stuff for me. And I told him, like, I've only got this much money, that's okay. I'm here. Let's have fun,
Yeah.
And when Cooter came in, it was like, and he brought in this broken little echo machine that ran on rubber bands, literally, and they kept breaking, and we'd have to run around trying to find the right kind of rubber band. No, that's the wrong rubber band. It's like, and by the end of the day, I wasn't sure if we'd gotten anything, and then and he stormed out of there too. Just, it's like, oh my God, we pissed him off and everything, and then we found out that he had really played great for about 10 minutes in the middle of all that, and so thank God,
Wow. So
my newest record, I ran into Jackson again at unfortunately a wake for a friend of ours, and he said, oh, you're working on a new record, why don't you come over to the studio? I said, well, super low budget here,
Yeah.
Come on over, so he was really generous and helped me, we got to put our drums that we recorded at my studio to his big Neve board to make them sound a lot better.
Oh, nice.
I re-sang a couple vocals to his really nice microphones. My microphones are pretty good, but he's got some really nice microphones.
Yeah.
And all that, the magic black box. Just don't look at it, but just turn that knob a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, incredible. Anyway, I'm on a roll. Sorry.
Yeah. No. I love it. There's so much. And then how did you mentioned that you became like the piano tech to like the who's who and just the number one guy in.
I was one of them. I mean, there's always been 3 or 4 guys in town, but not many. Still, and today there's only a couple guys that really, that I trust, other than myself, to refer business to. And I've been trying to find somebody to teach how to tune pianos forever, and I almost think I've got it going on. And they go, oh, what? I kind of know how to do it, but how many pianos am I going to have to tune before I'd really get that top in? I say it might take a year, man. You'd never know, and nobody's willing to do that, Yeah. So I'm really worried about the
future
the art.
of it. Yeah.
Who's going to be tuning these pianos? And the sample don't sound so good now. I mean, it's like, nobody's going to want to pay for piano tunings anymore, especially if they can't find anybody to do it. They don't charge arm and leg, and that people are going to start replacing their real pianos with digital pianos. And it's all the time. People call me every day can you help me move this piano? Can you help me give away this piano? I mean, oh
No.
yeah, it's going on already.
Oh no. But I feel like, I mean, there is a cycle to all this stuff, and how vinyl's coming back, and like landlines and real telephones come back, and I mean, I know it will come back, but it's kind of heartbreaking to hear that that's where we're at right now, you know?
Yeah, you know, I'd love to make a vinyl record, but it's you got to wait a year almost to get them, unless you're a big company right now. It's
Yeah. 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 Well, hopefully this can be a call to action for anyone out there that wants to learn the art of tuning pianos and they live in the LA area.
look me up, I mean, I play every Sunday night at the Red Lion Tavern in Silver Lake. I've been playing there for almost 30 years
Wow.
on the road with somebody or something. And so come by some Sunday night and hit me up, and I'll tell you how to go get yourself a good piano tuning hammer and a couple tools, and I'll spend some time with you. I mean, I can show somebody in a relative short amount of time how to do it, and then they've got to practice. I can, if they're really into it, I'll sit with them through a couple tunings and clue them in. But and then it's just they got to make the commitment, and they got to have a situation where they can actually tune a bunch of pianos. When I started doing it, there was a ton of people in the hippie part of Houston. I was living in Montrose,
Hmm.
back before it got gentrified,
Hmm.
and they had pieces of crap upright pianos that needed tuning, and I would do it for $5, and it was like, okay, sure, and I said, look, this may take me 3 or 4 hours, but $5, what are you gonna to
Yeah.
lose? And so and and then I got a gig at a piano store way out in the Spring Branch. It was like, it wasn't a good piano store. It was like a bunch of cheap, crappy pianos. So they had to be tuned a lot before they sounded like anything. So
Yeah.
he was paying me like $5 a piano to do it, and I would go there and tune as many as I could in a day and I was 20 or something, 21 or 2 or something, and so I try to tune 10 pianos a day. It was, I can't imagine tuning 10 pianos a day now. But
So
hey,
does it take now 3 to 4 hours for you to do it, or was that just because it was at the beginning
no,
of you?
because I was learning,
Oh, okay.
and I'd like to spend an hour on a piano, but I can do it in 20 minutes if I have to, which I've done a ton of times for rock shows when hey, you
It's
got
too.
10 minutes or maybe 15 if you're lucky. Okay, great. I'll do what I can. And it's a lot of that is just you have to hit all the unisons and make sure it's close enough, and just yeah, man, it's good. Hey,
Good enough. Do you use your
it,
ear? Do you use your ear, or do you use it like a tuner scale like device to make sure
well,
it's in tune?
you got to be able to tune by ear,
Yeah.
but the tuning devices come in very handy for pianos that are a little messed up, or if it's noisy, which is
Yeah.
frequently noisy. I mean,
Yes.
most of the gigs I have are professional gigs these days, although I do have a few home studios that I do these days, but I don't do it nearly as much as I used to. I'm trying to play more than the tune, but the tuning is really good for me, and it keeps my ear in tune. Hey, so uh, but yeah, it's noisy, and you gotta the electronics, and electronics are so much better now than when I started. Before they were like ran on tubes and stuff,
Mm,
and
yeah.
it middle of your tuning, and you have to go, this is really not working right. Then you go, oh, well, I've got to calibrate a thing with my tuning for you again. Oh, it's drifted, so
Yeah.
basically, you can't count on the tuner, so you had to do it by ear, and I learned by ear to start with anyway, and I finally tried a tuner out, and they were no good, especially from from about here to from there to there, they were okay, but the new ones are great. I really love Petersons. They have a really good temperament, and they seem to be pretty right on all the way up to the top.
Wow. How many hours a day do you play piano now currently, just every day in your life? Do you play every day?
I do play every day, but it varies on what I'm doing. I mean, if I'm working on a project for somebody, or if I have songs I have to learn for a gig, or then I have to rehearse. Rehearse. Oh my god! But, I don't get to play for fun as much as I would like to. But usually that happens late at night when I come home, and if I can't sleep or something, I'll go down and play the piano or something. But I've still got a ton of great instruments in here, and I just got a couple more Wurlitzers, and I've got the Hammond organ that my dad bought when I was in second grade in Arkansas. I've got
That's sweet.
a chord that used to belong to Ricky Pitar. I've got 100-year-old pump organ back there. And besides a couple, I've got a big drum booth, with all kind of stuff. This place is way crowded. I've got 30 accordions, but I'm just getting about ready to get rid of about 15, and probably buy a really, spectacular one. So, but then you gotta. I hate selling stuff. It's hard, It's like giving away your kids,
I know.
But
But 30 is a lot.
it's a lot. I know.
I mean,
there's two or three in every room in the house.
and they're pretty big, right? I mean, they can get big.
They can't. I don't have the super big ones. I've mostly got small and medium ones. Although I got two or three ones that I hardly ever play because they're so big. But when I need to sound like God or something, I pull them out. These ones that have the old lead reeds, man, they get the roar in the bass. It's just like, yeah.
Wow. So these days, you're still tuning pianos and doing that, but less and less. So what's kind of your average week like these days? Like, where are you playing? How much are you playing? And what band are you doing? So Dr. Soundgood is the name of the kind of latest endeavor, or
basically, I had the Zydeco party band for 30 years. Basically.
Yeah.
And then this is kind of the Zydeco party band on steroids.
Okay.
And the new record there's a hint of Zydeco on it, but not really. It's got some accordion and stuff. And the first song is actually an old Mardi Gras song. Meet the Boys on the Battlefront. It's got the big accordion solo and all that stuff in it. But after that, it's more, like either swamp funk or like the Meters kind of Little Feat vibe, the blues, some rock and roll, but it's a pretty eclectic album with definite Louisiana, Texas roots, made in California, because I've been living here a long time. But I didn't ever, I do all kinds of gigs, so you got to learn all kind of music, but I still, everything I play is, feels like stuff,
Yeah.
It's anyway, where was I on all that?
So did you, when you were little, the Cajun Zydeco, like that meter, that beat really struck you at an early age, didn't it?
My favorite band, I grew up, my first lick was, was a Ray Charles song. But I had to play with two hands and I ended up like this because I was only 5.
Oh.
And but my favorite band really for quite a while was the Meters, and they got a lot of airplay in Houston at the time. It was that that kind of stuff. And then and my dad was a musician, and he always had bands with brass and horns and everything. So we listened to a lot of Dorsey and Benny Goodman and all that kind of stuff growing up. And at one point I started playing baritone horn and tuba and stuff in the band, and I ended up in a band in high school that our trumpet player, his dad was a famous arranger. And so we had great arrangements, and everybody in the band was first chair, and everybody that was first chair in our band was also first chair in the state. We had really great musicians for high school. We were doing Chicago and Blood, Sweat, and Tears and all this kind of stuff. And our senior year, man, we were rocking. We had gigs, and everybody was making like $50 a gig twice or 2 or 3 times a week.
Wow.
Because in the 70s was pretty good,
Yeah.
And the summer after we graduated, we played almost every night all summer long, and the band was so tight at the end of the summer. And then I said, well, let's go on the road, guys. No, I gotta go be a doctor, man. I gotta go be a lawyer.
Oh.
So
Do
then I
you
went to
keep
Houston.
in do you keep in touch with any of those guys?
We just got together for our 50th high school reunion and put the band back together and played for the reunion.
No.
We did. It was pretty good. I gotta say,
Yeah, it's pretty tight.
the bass player who's been a brain surgeon for years, has got a lot of money, and he has this incredible house in Houston with a recording studio in it because he kept playing the bass. And he's had a band of doctors for years. So he had it kind of going on, and made everybody else, for about a year start rehearsing. And so these guys took out their horns, and the horn section was a little funky, but it was pretty cool. And my
So
drummer that
cool.
was our lead singer back then, it still sings great. And Salty Thompson, and but he's not, didn't keep playing professionally, but he still can do it.
Oh, makes me so happy that you guys did that. I had no idea.
It was amazing. And we were, and out of the whole thing, I mean, there was maybe a handful of other people that were like dancing and stuff. Everybody else was like walking or something. But we feel like, oh my God, we're in heaven,
Wow.
you know?
It's so trippy, right? Like how can you the mind and body age thing where I mean, like I think my high school graduate like the next big one is going to be 30 years. And
Well,
that just does not make sense to me. And I imagine that that's never going to really change no matter how old we get. Like,
they come quicker. Also, wait a minute, we just had our 40th.
right.
Oh my God, this is the 50th already. Like, wow.
It's so super trippy. I try to explain that to my kids like you're gonna be my age someday.
Right. And by the time maybe the next one comes around, we'll probably able to do it in a very small room.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so trippy. So if people are watching this in LA, they can come see you and your band every Sunday night at the
I do that solo,
Oh,
but
you do that solo. Okay.
I do, yeah, every Sunday I play the piano and I sing the blues, and right now I'm doing Saturdays there. But although this Saturday the band is playing at a winery in San Fernando, in Burbank on San Fernando, over by the Academy. It's a really good winery, and it's a really good Italian restaurant. And then next month we're going to play, and that's the Urban Press Winery and Restaurant. And next month we're going to play at the Crawfish Festival down just on the other side of Long Beach in Fountain Valley. It's some
Yeah.
Fountain Valley Sports Park or something. And we're on Sunday at noon, and for an hour and a half. And
Nice. It's perfect
yeah,
gig for you guys.
we're also going to play a place called the Trip. You know the Trip? It's over there in Santa Monica. It's been there forever.
Wait, that's where I lived was Santa Monica. Where was it?
In Lincoln, about 2 blocks south of the 10.
Yeah, I mean yeah.
And it's like a little hole in the wall with a pool table and a little stage,
It's
and
called The Trip.
the Trip. I mean, it's been there at least 20 years.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then we're going to do the Mint.
Oh, I know that place. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do that on Saturday, June 24th. And then I've got a festival for us to do in Santa Monica in September that McCabe's is putting on.
That's where I bought my guitar, was at McCabe's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love McCabe's.
Yeah.
On Pico.
Played there with my first. I've done stuff with Van Dyke there years and years and years ago. This is the first time I've tried to work with them again. So, but yeah, it's going to be fun. We're going to be the featured band, I think, on the 10th of September.
Oh, that's awesome. So you're staying busy. Are you the one that kind of does all the booking and keeps things kind of rolling, or do you share that?
Yeah, well, Mike's been helping lately. He's helped me. He got the Mint to take us on, and just recently we played the Zebulon with the voice of SpongeBob's band, Tom Kenny. He's awesome, and he's had this band called the High Seas for many years, and it's a big with brass and chick singers and the whole bit, and they've got a pretty good following. So between him and the guy that just made my new video, he directed his band, Harry Katz and the Pistachios, the three of us did a gig together at the Zebulon. Are you familiar with the Zebulon yet?
Mm-mm.
It's a really cool place. It's kind of Yeah, it holds about 300 and some odd people, and it's a really nice venue. And thank God it's like 5 minutes from my house.
Oh,
You know,
sweet.
I'm telling you. So, but we filled that place up on a rainy Tuesday evening, back in February, but that was because I booked the thing like 6 months before and have been promoting it for 6 months.
Yeah.
But yeah, but it's what it takes in LA. It's really brutal. You just
Yeah.
I'm I'm almost afraid to play the Mint in June. In June, that's too soon. Oh my God, we gotta promote the hell out of it. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Anyway.
like, yeah, it's such a big place. I think
Yeah.
when you're there, you know, I know for me when I lived there, I was, you have little bubbles and you have your little, like, you don't feel like you live in all of LA. You just are kind of in your own little thing. And then every once in a while you have to come out of your bubble and drive
Right.
over a hill or, go down south or go up north. And you realize how big that city is. It's kind of insane.
Oh, don't play a gig anywhere near us. Well, the other gig I have is over 40 miles on the other side of town. It's like, so don't worry about it. You're not going to get the same crowd.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Uh, I'm going to start playing every Friday night solo again at Brennan's Jazz Kitchen in downtown Disney. I used to play there like 4 nights a week, like several, for up until this last New Year's, and all of a sudden Disney wanted to totally change the place and tear the stage out and lose the beautiful piano that I used to play and
Mm.
some keyboards in there now. But and then all of a sudden they got audited, and so it's been 4 months since I played there. It's a long story, but and anyway, I'm gonna start doing Friday nights, because in the meantime I started getting other work, and I can't work. I can't just sit around waiting for these guys to hire me back again.
Yeah.
And but it's a lot of fun, and it's a cool gig to play because I know all that stuff. I don't have to think about it. Just go in there and play Dr. John and Professor Longhair stuff. And it's like I can do this in my sleep, and I frequently do. But but it's just trying to keep busy. You got to see my new video. It's a Pool Shark, and
Very
that's
cool.
just look for Doug Legacy and Pool Shark, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. You look like you're having a lot of fun. Let's wrap with I'm curious what looking back on such a beautiful experience that you seem to have had over the last just since you started. What what's kind of the biggest lesson or just thing that you feel like kind of has carried you through? Because this is a hustle. This is not A plus B equals C and this is easy. Like you have worked hard. I mean, yeah, I feel like you've had some luck and you've been in the right rooms, but I still think that this requires so much hustle and not giving up. And that has to have given you some sort of tenets of what you've learned and what you kind of carry with you even to this day. What is that?
One of the biggest lessons is like don't ever take any gig for granted, even if you think nobody's listening,
Oh,
because you're in LA for God's sake. And who knows over that in the shadow is. And I've learned that the hard way a couple times. And you have to have a passion for it if you're really going to commit to it. I mean, and don't do it if you don't really enjoy it, because
yeah.
you're going to be really lucky if you can actually make a living at it. And
Right.
I mean, I was, thank God I also tuned pianos, because it's a related thing. A lot of guys are doing other gigs to support their music habits that they would rather not be doing. And
Mhm.
I enjoy tuning pianos. I don't really want to do it a ton a day or even a ton a week anymore. But it's and I enjoy fixing them even. But I can't really string them anymore because I'm starting to hands are wearing out. But I can still play, but I'm not going to be wrapping
Absolutely.
wire around pins and hammering them in with a sledgehammer anytime
Yeah.
soon. But you gotta have a passion for it, and you gotta have patience, and don't do anything that's not fun if you can avoid it. I mean, 'cause that's what makes people old, I think. Guys
Mhm.
I talked to that were like were walkers at my last 50th reunion were like, yeah, I hated this job for 40 years. And I said, well, why did you just keep doing it? I've got this big house. I mean, you can't even walk,
Yeah.
Anyway,
It's worth putting happiness over stuff.
yeah, and family makes you happy.
Yeah.
Keep your family together and have fun.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. It's so nice to meet you. Mike spoke so highly of you, and I
Oh man,
trust him so deeply. So I was like, bring him on.
so much. Like Mike's the best, and
He
any
really
any
is.
friend of Mike's a good friend of mine too. So you're always
Same.
welcome. You need a place to hang. I got a big house in LA. Come on down.
All right. Teach me how to play piano.
I'll teach you how to play steel drums. Hey.
That too. Why not? And accordion while we're at it.
And you can tune pianos. I bet you can tune pianos.
I bet I could be your protege. Oh, Doug, thank you again so much for coming on. This does it for our episode of Austin Downbeat with Doug Legacy, and we will see you next time. Play us out, Doug.
Woo-hoo.
Woohoo! I love it. All right, guys, we'll see you next time.